Hey, good listeners. Shanga here of Otherworldly Giants. Just popping in because I want to give you a little sneak peek of my research that I have been doing on this theme of building an economy for the Planetary Artist in residence. And really, this is just this is really geared toward the artists, the healers, the teachers, the scholars who are really deeply called to collaborate with our ancestors to move forward our ancestor healing journey, repair our relationship with the spirit world, wherever you are in that journey. Some people have been doing this for many, many, many years, and some people are just being called into that life path right now. You might be just getting a little like nagging tap on the shoulder, right? And all of it is great, right? Because this is a time where more and more people are going to be called into this kind of life path of ancestor healing. We look at, the children who are being born right now, the babies being born, and the really young people. Um, are being born with that calling, right? They're being born to really move this life path forward, the life path of the modern day wisdom keeper, because it's really this life path that is so, so needed on the planet, right now. And it's how I'm seeing, the revolution of our revolution m movements, you know what I mean? The revolution of our liberation movements is really, coming back into what do we want to build together? And how are we bringing our ancestors in this? And how are we bringing our widened consciousness of what life in the universe and, you know, um, our relationship to the otherworldly? We're bringing that all in to, how we heal and how we make change and what is guiding that change. So, it's really important right now for us to say as a movement, this is a really good time for us to think about how are we going to organize an economy around this kind of life path of ancestor healing, of repairing our relationship with the spirit world, of opening up more to the spirit world. How are we organizing an economy around this? Because more and more people are going to be called into this life path, right? More and more children are going to be like, what university? Like colonial, like colonial university? Like, no thanks. Like I'm a wisdom keeper. I work for the planet. More and more people are being like, no, I'm not going to go into that, corporate industry or whatever. Like, that's not where my success is. More and more young artists are like, yeah, I'm here to be the most prolific artist of our time. And I'm not going through Hollywood, right? And I'm not trying to like play the game in order to get success, right? To get a seat at the table. I'm not even here to flip over the table. I'm here to sit at my own table and build something from the beginning. And that's kind of the heart of where I'm coming from in terms of like, yeah, it's time. It's time for us to start organizing, really, tangible strategies around this life path. Um, Sharing resources, moving money in different ways, imagining, um, how did we do things when we lived and died in thriving villages? How did we care for each other as communities? How did we recognize each other? How did we support each other's growth? How did we, back each other as investors, right? In each other's creativity, in each other's scholarship? What are those village practices that we have in our bodies, in our memories, in our spirits that can come forward and help guide us through this moment? And as, the next decades, through the next stretch of time in front of us, and all the changes that we're going to have to move through on all levels, right? Politically, socially, environmentally, all these things. Um, but kind of, coming back to like what the heck are you looking at on my screen right now? So for the first few months of 2025, my company, Otherworldly Giants, we hosted an artist retreat. And that, kind of became our butterfly sanctuary. So now we're calling our in-house artist retreat, artist residency, our butterfly sanctuary. And in this butterfly sanctuary, the theme of this year was literally what I just mentioned. It's when we lived and died in thriving villages. And so there's a think tank component to this artist retreat. So through going, the folks who came through this space, we came together as, artists, creators, learners, students of life, and also as a think tank. And that was kind of just my vision of how I wanted to offer this, ancestral think tank for the first part of the year. And the think tank is really about bringing that ancestral memory forward, right? Like, what are those village practices that want to come out right now? Um, and what you're looking at here on this is Miro, just a, free software, whatever. Um, This is my mural board. And what happened during this think tank artist retreat for me is that my brain basically exploded onto this mural board. And I had no idea that was going to happen. But, throughout the process, I just like opened this up and I started like mapping out all these things. And so basically, you're seeing my like mad spiritual scientist brain. That's what this is. Um, and, everything that you see here, it's kind of an accumulation of so much of the wisdom and life experience that I've gathered, on my personal healing journey and by, just investing in all the different kinds of learning that I have. And it was like, yeah, all this ancestral memory that I have inside of me, it was ready to be put down on a map. It's ready to be mapped out in this way. But I want to say before I kind of like, there's a lot that I kind of, and I'm still throughout the all of 25, I started like this is now my space where I put down my ideas and I start mapping out, classes and just technologies, frameworks, philosophies, methodologies that I'm working with. But there's a main sort of lesson that came out of this think tank that we were part of, that we hosted. Um, and it's not about something that was supposed to come out, it's about someone. Okay, so that there was a very simple question that kept coming up in our sessions, again and again. And that very simple question was just, who are you? Okay. And really what that took me to is that recognizing that we're in a moment of time, that the most important thing that we can do is allow a version of ourselves to come to the forefront. In this moment of in time, we're all asking, like, what's the solution? What's the answer? What's the strategy? What's the way? How do we organize? How do we do things differently? What is it? What's the direction? And we can talk about the what, and the what is important to talk about. However, it's not as important as the who. Okay, there's something about, I see this theme across the board happening, with many individuals that it's something in you is emerging right now. There's a part of you that wants to come online, maybe a part of you that has been buried and suppressed for a very long time, ancestors that are very, very old, or maybe some that aren't necessarily really old ancestors, but they've been stuck in hiding or in trauma, or it just hasn't been time for them to come out and be in relationship with us, or there's a part of us that's been sort of enclosed for a long time, but it's now time for that part of you to come forward. So who is that? Who are you? Who is this part of you that wants to emerge and come forward, come into the light, take this driver's seat? um, because that's the key. That's the answer. It's who are you? Who is this person that wants to come forward? When you are that person every day and you just let that part of you be, that's who has the answers. That's who has the strategy. That's who has the direction. That's who has, you know, the the decisions that that person will make will take you in the right direction. will take you to the right opportunities, the right connections, the right collaborations. That's when you know that part of you collaborates with that part of someone else sitting next to you, that's where we make magic, right? That's where we come up with phenomenal solutions. So it's yeah, letting that part of you emerge and then connect with that part of someone else that is also emerging. That's where our magic is right now. So, on the perspective of the ancestral healing journey, um, who it was that really emerged for me through this process are the ancestors who are architects, right? So they're architects and organizers that are coming in, um, directors, artists, writers for people across the board. I want you to imagine like who is it that's coming forward? What role do they play in a village? And for some people, it might be, several different things. But for me, the architect coming from deep in my lineage was a really monumental thing for me. And I'm talking about like who are the architects in your lineage? Or, for me, like who are the architects in my lineage, you know, before we had this real estate industry, right? I'm not just talking about architects as in, I build homes for real estate. I mean architects who build with energy, who weave, with cosmic energy, spiritual energy, and weave that into the tangible, weave that into the artistic. Um, and so the architects that emerge for me, we build homes. That's basically what this board you're looking at is saying. It's like we build homes. These are all maps for homes. And not again, not just building homes for the real estate industry. I'm talking about homes like um a set of village practices, a way to live with each other, a way to give and exchange resources. Um, what does it mean, a set of values and principles about what it means to live in relationship with all of life, including the unseen, including the mysterious universe, including the plants and the rocks, including the animals. Um, so yeah, that's what I really came home to thus far in 2025 is bringing forward these inner architects and and so much more than that too. But I want to just kind of mention that for you to take as food for thought in your own life, right? Like what's going on for you right now? What are you searching for? Are you caught in the what? Are you caught in the what's the answer? What's this? What's that? Redirect for a minute and think about the who. Who is it inside of you that's trying to emerge? If you're stuck somewhere, bring that part of you forward. Put some energy and effort and priority into that kind of healing work, right? Like, why is that part of you stuck? What is that part of you afraid of? Can you give that person what they need in order to feel safe and supported to come forward? Who is that right now? Who is that deeper part of you? Can you be in conversation with that part of you? That's a great writing exercise. Do an interview with that part of you that's trying to come forward. Just say, "Who are you?" Right? Um, yeah, because that's really what we want to look at in terms of what are we investing in right now? Sure, it's a what, but more importantly, it's a who. So when we look around, we say, yeah, I love what you're doing, but who are you? Who is the person behind what you're doing? That's who we want to invest in. Um, yeah, so that's kind of, a very basic thing that I wanted to say about what this research is and where it kind of took me, and the important thing behind it. And now, what I can do, given that this incredible gift, right, came forward of this person in me who knows how to do this. Now I can kind of take this on the road, right? Now I can share this with people. And so there's so many things that we can unpack here. And this is my mad spiritual scientist brain, as I'd like to say. And so there's no, you don't have to understand anything that's on here all at once. But this is you're really a place for me to be able to say, you know what, okay, maybe next week I want to zero in on just this one thing. If we're talking about an economy, how would we really break down what an economy is as a set of village practices if we were going to map it all out on an altar, northeast, southwest? How do we look at how an economy functions on every part of this altar, including the emotional body, the spiritual body, the cultural, intellectual body, and of course the physical and tangible and financial body? Um, and if we were going to map out, what's the difference between a colonial capitalist economy on an altar and an economy for the planetary artist in residence? Because if we can actually understand how a colonial and capitalist economy operates on an altar, like on all sides, northeast, west, south, then we know how to transmute it. Then we know how to, transform it into something that is truly earth honoring instead of, you know, a set of village practices determined to attacking the home, the body, the self, the earth. Um, so there's there's a lot more here that we can unpack that I've been exploring around just those basics. Um, and over here, I have so much, I kind of organized it around. If you go this way, this is the amusement park, and this is for the showrunner. So we have lots of, if we're going to talk about an economy for the planetary artist in residence, if we're going to talk about, how did we do this as, thriving villages? What what about the showrunner? Like, how do you run your company or business? How do you fund your projects and livelihood? Um, according to this kind of economy. And so I have a lot of things that we can unpack here around. Over here, we have like, let's go to some basic, village practices. And how can we implement those village practices into, say, a 2-week money moving workshop? Um, and then we have a whole money audit, kind of thing that we did here around how do we move money now? And maybe what's a better way, a more deeply remembered way to move money according to a different system. So this is a whole class we can unpack here. Um, and then this is a really fun place, right? Like really breaking down if you're creating an artistic project, how does it stay funded? How does your business stay active? And how does your business bring give back reciprocity and reparations? And so this is a really interesting place, right? Because when I broke this down, I was like, oh, there's a whole ass difference between how your business stays active, how it stays running, and how it stays funded. And so if we can kind of break that down, then, we can create systems around this that make it more easeful for more people to, house their creative works, find funding, find a way to, work without, constant hustling and burnout. Um, and then there's this place over here, which is really fun. Marketing, promotion, advertising, socials, outreach. What were these things in a thriving village? Because even when we did not have, even in communities that did not operate via capitalism, they operated via, thriving village practices. What would marketing look like in that scenario? Like what would promotion look like in that scenario? So I have all these teachings that we can break down and so much more. And over here, I had, if that's for the showrunner, over here, the water park, which is, that's where I want to hang out in an amusement park, is for the storyteller. So here we have a lot of different, like, when you work with ancestors and the spirit world, how do you map out your projects as an altar? How do you understand the ancestral technologies of storytelling? How did we do things as a village? Um, you know, outside of Hollywood industry, outside of capitalist colonial industry, outside of academia? How did we build schools? How did we learn together? So there's a lot of things around there. Um, and here's one of my favorite things that I can't wait to do a class on. Um, what does an altar look like for a successful arms embargo? This just came to me, after actually a conversation with a friend, a couple friends. We were just hanging out one day and we're talking about like how, how would we really organize a successful arms embargo? You know, what would that actually look like as an entirely organized movement where we really put a dent on stopping the military industrial complex from doing all the things that it's doing, right? So from that conversation with my friend the next day, I just, had a moment where all of it came tumbling out. Um, and we looked at, what's going on in this part, the South, what's going on in the West, what's going on in the North, what's going on in the East. And that, but I mean the physical, tangible body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, the cultural body, all the different roles that can come together to make this a very successful moment. Not just the organizer, the protester, the architect, the activist, but also the healer, the scholar, the wisdom keeper, the writer, the director, the ceremonialist. Um, and so this is a place where, activists come together, organizers come together, scholars come together, teachers and writers and directors and and artists of all kind come together. And we really look at what are the ancestral roots of all these, activist technologies, the spiritual roots of a filibuster, the spiritual roots of a boycott movement. Here's where we really can, come into some really deep study around organizing in a more holistic way some of the things that we really want to see on our planet, um, including, stopping genocide in all these different areas. So I'm planning on doing this class on my YouTube channel um, sometime this summer. So, yeah, basically, this is just to take folks behind the scenes a little bit and show you like this is what I want to do right now. I want to start, bringing my research forward. And so that's what I'm going to be doing on my YouTube channel. You've seen, in the last few videos, I've had open classrooms. And so I'm going to continue to do open classrooms on my YouTube channel, and you can subscribe there. But I also want to come into community and do some closed group classrooms as well, because these are best, unpacked in conversation, right? We need to unpack these conversations in person where we can have an interactive kind of environment and share ideas and, build together um, on what our visions are and what's, emerging from our own ancestral memories and bringing it all together. And so these, I would love to come to different, communities and group environments, and you can hire me for a class, a workshop, a field trip, an artist retreat. And yeah, we can unpack this research and we can unpack the questions and concerns that are um, that are feeling most relevant to you. Um, whether it's, the creative process or it's linking that creative process to this like larger global movement for liberation. Um, if it is, sort of thinking about the resources, the money, the funding, the running your business, all those kinds of things. Um, yeah, I have so many you'll see you probably can see I have so many different interests here, and there's a lot of different topics I could come and do a workshop on. So yeah, that's just oh, I have a little thumbs up there. I don't know if you'll be able to see that in the video when it records, but Zoom just gave me a thumbs up. Um, yeah, so that's it. Stay tuned. And if you want to book me for a classroom or anything like that, you can find the info in the show notes. All right, peace.